I'm going to explain real quickly. I'm going to give you a little bit of an update on where we're at, but the presentation tonight is actually going to be Lieutenant Taylor. He's going to kind of follow me around for a minute because he has the mic for the camera, so that's why he's not hovering. I don't need a bodyguard, but that's why, because they're trying to pick me up on his mic that's up there. So. Good evening, I'm Lisa Womack. I am the Chief of Police here in Lakeland. For those that don't know me, I look around the room, and every month we do this, I see new faces. I see some of the same faces, and I see some new faces. So for those of you that are new to the meeting, welcome. For those that are repeat offenders, welcome back. I appreciate you being here. We had a request tonight. There was a request that we've never done this before, but when I get a citizen request, we certainly try to accommodate that. And we have a request to do the Pledge of Allegiance before we start our meeting. So if there's no objections, everybody please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Chaplain Gracia, would you like you know what? I kind of assumed that was For those of you that don't know, this is our head chaplain, John Gracia, and he would be happy to lead us in prayer.
Okay, let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we know that you are a mighty God, and we ask that you be with us, with our conversation, and help us to accomplish things and work for the good of this community tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, before we get started on the presentation, I'm going to have everyone do this the same way, or we've got some additional staff people here this week. So I'm going to ask the Lakeland Police Department staff to please introduce themselves. Y'all just met Chaplain Gracia, so we'll start.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Lincoln. I'm the captain of the Uniform Patrol Division.
Good evening. Victor White, I'm the captain of the Support Services Division.
Good evening, I'm Assistant Chief Larry Giddens. I'm the Neighborhood Services Bureau Commander.
Welcome, my name is Bill Fear. I'm the Assistant Chief of Support Services.
I'm Greg Polycastro. I'm the captain over Investigative Services.
There he is.
I'm Howard Solid, Deputy Commander.
All right, we also have additional city staff here. Ms. Robin.
Robin Phillip, Digital Marketing Communications.
Hey, the guy behind the camera never has to introduce himself, so tell us who you are.
I'm Antoine Key. I'm with the City of Lakeland's Communications Department.
And last but not least, I'm going to have Brian introduce himself because he's also going to be asked to put on the spot to provide some information in a little bit. So
I'm Brian Ruiz. I manage the city's Neighborhood Services Division, which includes our housing and code enforcement offices.
So tonight's topic, if you saw it, is a continuation. How many of you were here last month? Okay, so we do have some people that were here last month as we started our conversation on what we can do as a community to reduce our violent crimes. And so tonight's conversation is going to be a continuation of that. We're going to talk about what we've been doing since the first of the year and what we will be doing as we go into spring and summer. That's why Lieutenant Taylor, it's not just to embarrass him, but Lieutenant Taylor has been working very hard in these areas with different units, and I wanted you to hear directly from the people that have been on the street working on some of the issues. And we want some additional feedback from you guys as to how we're doing, what we can do better, and what y'all have been doing. So everybody that was here last month, you know that the request has been, how can the neighborhood, how can the community help us? And so some follow-up to that, and continue this as communication and dialogue. The reason that it's important that Mr. Ruiz is here as well because of some interaction with code enforcement. We always get code enforcement in different types of housing questions, and he's pretty good. I've seen him do impromptu things before, so asking him to follow up or if there's any questions that he can answer as well. So we're going to try to add other city departments as we move through working on getting down and keeping down our crime-related and our quality of life-related as well. We want quality of life to go up. We don't want to get it down. We want quality of life to go up and go from there. And then we'll take questions. At any point, as we're talking, you can stop and ask for clarification, whether it's me or it's Lieutenant Taylor or anyone else in the room. Oh, we have a new LPD person that has to introduce himself.
Sergeant Ron Strong, will be congressman.
line to Lieutenant Rick Taylor. He can tell you about himself and what he does.
Thank you.
It's all yours. Oh, you can stop and ask questions. I'll stop in the middle of that. You can stop and ask for clarification questions as he's aware of that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm Lieutenant Rick Taylor. I'm over our neighborhood liaison section. I have a pretty vast variety of responsibilities that include our. We have a couple of units that we do some street level drug enforcement. We have a unit that does some surveillance enforcement, things like that, for burglaries, robberies. I have our community services unit, which are the ones that go around and they do your surveys on your businesses for, for protection, lighting. They do all that kind of stuff. I have a pretty wide range of responsibilities. I'm in charge of our K-9 unit that placed #1 in the regions last week that we're pretty proud of. When I was told that I had to come in here and talk a little bit about our violent crimes initiative, I was trying to think of what things might you be interested in knowing, and coincidentally, it's the same things that we like to know too. I came up with 4 kind of basic questions, which are: how bad is our crime? How bad is our violent crime here in the city? Who are our offenders? Who's actually committed these crimes? Who are our victims? That's pretty important. And then what are we going to do about it as a police department? So if I look at the first one, how bad is our crime here? Our crime rate is down across the entire county for the last 30 years. Our violent crime right now is up a little bit so far this year, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of gloom and doom, but unfortunately this is just the facts of the way things are today in society. Since the first of the year, we've had 5 homicides within the city limits of Lakeland. That's 5. That's in 2 months, so that's not the best thing that we have going right now as far as our crime rate. 4 of them were with a firearm, okay, and the 5th one was the result of basically a fist fight, an altercation that went bad. So we're basically looking at 4 true violent crimes here since the first of the year. When we look at this, we say, all right, well, who's committing these violent crimes? Basically, I'm sure you guys can answer this question for me, but it's our youth, it's our teenagers, our early 20-something-year-olds. That's what we're finding who's actually committing these crimes. They're one of the interesting things about these 4 homicides that we have right now is that they're gang related. Here in Lakeland, they're actually they're either in a gang or their associates are affiliated with a gang. Another thing is that these individuals are all involved in some type of illegal activity. Just to be qualified as a gang member, you have to be involved in illegal activity as it is, but most of them are into some type of drugs. They're into stealing, they're into breaking into things like that. So they all have criminal records and criminal histories, unfortunately. When you look at our victims are also pretty much gang members. They're on the 4 that we had with firearms. They're either gang members or they're criminals themselves. Okay, so you say, you might look at that and say, well, that's not necessarily bad, right? But anytime we lose any type of human life here, we want to avoid that. The problem is we had a teenage girl that was shot in the back, got caught in the crossfire between 2 gangs. That's when we have to look as a society and say, hey, things are wrong and we need to step up and do something about this. Those are basically our victims and our gang members, that are doing this. Or the gang members that are doing it, and those are the victims. They're also gang members. They're also in the drug trade. They're also doing illegal activity right now. So you look at, all right, so what is the police department doing about it? Okay, how many since January 1st? Just throw out some numbers here. How many guns do you think that the Lakeland Police Department has taken off the streets? Give me an idea. What do you think? 100? That's a good number. 50? Well, you guys are aiming high. We've actually, since January 1st, we've taken 58 guns off the street across the entire police department. That's a lot of guns, right? There's still many more out there, unfortunately, that are in the hands of people that don't really need them. I am all for law-abiding citizens carrying guns. However, when we have criminals out there with them, that's where we have the problem. So we've taken 58 guns off the street so far. Yes, sir?
Well, how are they getting not legally at them or what?
They are. That's actually a very good question. That's a good learning point here. We are seeing at several times a month we have cars broken into almost on a daily basis, and people are leaving firearms inside of cars that are unsecured. and that is a huge problem. A lot of our guns, a lot of our illegal guns that we're taking in off the streets are stolen guns. They're stolen from law-abiding citizens who have them in their homes, they have them locked up, they keep them in their cars, things like that. We've seen them stolen out of pawn shops. They'll crash a car through a pawn shop door or break in the middle of the night through the back door, and they'll steal some out of there. That's across the entire country, state, and who knows where they're coming from.
Are you controlling the guns that are sold at these gun shows?
That is all governed by the state, but no, we don't control that. The Lakeland Police Department doesn't control any of that. That's that loophole that's through the state law that you're actually allowed to go there and buy and sell and trade and things like that. But convicted felons are not supposed to be able to buy them and everything. So that is a huge loophole. But excuse me, ma'am, go ahead.
He just asked my question.
Yeah.
What age do they sell them to the gun shop? Because the gun show just left from here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that is a huge problem. The gun shows are a problem, but they're governed by state legislation, and there's really not anything that we can do to enforce that. Go ahead.
How would the gun shows ever know if it was convicted felon that was buying them? I mean, they have to show some kind of identification, or they have some kind of system that they run through?
Yeah, the way, and I keep saying loophole, the way that loophole works is if I walk in there with a gun, it's basically that I want to trade. You can't go in there and just buy a handgun straight off. You can trade guns, and that's how you get past that loophole. There's usually a 3-day wait and a background check and all that stuff, but the gun shows is the loophole. That's a problem with the lobbyists and all that stuff. That's a huge issue. So, all right, okay. All right, so since January 1st, 58 guns off the street. So when we look at who these people are that are committing these crimes, we have to think about, I said earlier that most of them they're young adults and teenagers. So we have to figure out ways that we can enforce, their activities, go after them, stop them from committing these violent crimes. And basically, the only way to do that is to go to them. They're not going to come to us. They're not going to say, hey, we're in the gang. Look, we have guns. It's not going to happen. So what do? We have to go where they hang out. And that's basically a lot of our enforcement actions. That's what we're doing. We're going to places where these youngsters congregate, hang out, the bars, the clubs, the dances, these teen dances that we have here in town. Some of them can be quite dangerous. I know 3 weeks ago we took 4 guns out of 1 car at one of these teen dances. Yeah, huge problem, folks. So if you're sending your kids to these teenage type dances, just be careful about it. Go ahead, ma'am. Some of them are. Some of them are. We've had some at Coleman Bush. We've had some and I don't know if somebody can name the place for me. There's like a lodge off of Lakeland Hills. I know we've had some there. I mean, we've had issues down on Lake Morton at a sorority house down there that they rent out the hall and things like that. It's all over, So.
My question is, it's on city property. What right do you have at the time on the city property that you can arrest them and how you can hold the city accountable if someone gets hurt there?
Say that again.
If someone is on city property and gets shot, who will be held accountable if they was on city property and got shot?
Yeah, ultimately it's the city, but the people who are putting on the event, they sign waivers and things like that, and it's the person that's putting on the event ultimately that is responsible. It's one of those things we can't just start denying these things, these events just because we think that there might be some bad folks show up. And that's the thing, when I talk about the youth, we're not talking about everyone's teenage son or daughter. We're talking about, 1% is all we're talking about. And that's what, unfortunately, as law enforcement, we have to do. We have to enforce that 1%. So.
But my question is, with that 1%, you have innocent people at these dances.
Absolutely.
And if I send my daughter, a granddaughter, a grandson on city property, who is going to be liable if they get hurt? Because the thing you say,
I know when to help the nice lieutenant here. Ma'am, when we have events that are on city property that are privately sponsored, so if there is a group, a private group from the community that utilizes city property, there is an agreement that is signed by that private group that says holding the city harmless. So it is the responsibility and the liability of the group that is using the facility. It does not become the city responsibility for what the event is occurring, as long as this group is adhering to the restrictions for the event. So a team dance has, you know, we're not going to have alcohol served and things like that. It will have a certain level of security that is required that group hold. But if something occurs, the responsibility and the liability falls on the group that rents the city property. The city is held harmless. If it's a city-sponsored event, the City of Lakeland, the Lakeland Police Department, whatever it may be, is sponsoring, like we do PAL events, our Police Athletic League. That becomes our responsibility to make sure that people are doing that safely regardless of the event. So what you're asking, just because it's a city property, does not make it.
You answered my question when you said city. When you say the city put on the event.
If the city puts on the event, it becomes our, or if the school puts on the event, it's the school, et cetera, et cetera. But if it's a private group utilizing a city property, they sign and hold the city harmless. Does that answer your question?
Right, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
You may be covering this subject. What are we doing on drug control?
I'm going to get to that. It's because it all ties into each other. It absolutely ties into each other. And what I'll do is, for now, is I'll talk about like what we're doing, what we have been doing as a police department as a whole right now. For our patrol officers, this is a complete department-wide initiative. Every single person here that works as a police department is involved in this in some aspect. So I'll start off with our patrol officers, our uniform officers that are out there patrolling in their cars and things like that. Like I said, they're going to where the problems are. They're going to the problem peoples. They're enforcing. They're going to them, enforcing traffic violations. They're patrolling the areas where they live. They're patrolling the areas where they hang out, and they're trying to get a presence known there. If we know that there's a city function at Coleman Bush where there's going to be a lot of juveniles there, they're there driving around it, keeping an eye on the place as much as they can. We have. How loud that's going to be? Well, I'll let that pass a second. Okay. We just kicked off a new warrants roundup initiative. Where now twice a month our patrol squads have to go out and they do these warrant roundups, and all these warrants, and why I say this is a new thing, we actually were able to tie into Polk County Sheriff's Office website, which they have, they're the ones that actually control all the warrants when they come out. So now we're daily getting the freshest warrants that come out. We're not getting warrants that are from 5 or 10 years ago. We're getting warrants that come out today. At 5 o'clock today, they sent out a new fresh batch of warrants for our officers to go out there and look for. So we're going after the violent criminals and trying to get them before most of them even know that they have warrants out for their arrest. So that's kind of a neat thing. Right now, what we're doing is we're also putting together basically like a Lakeland's Most Wanted list. In which we'll target some of our most violent people. Over the years, you hear all the time on the news, someone has, 40 arrests in the past, and then they end up, shooting somebody or doing something really bad, and they say, well, how come he wasn't in jail, for the last 10 years? Well, that's what we're doing. We're looking for the worst of the worst that we have that live in our city limits, and we're going to actually go out and see if we can target them. A lot of them are on probation. So you have a violent criminal who's on probation, and they commit a traffic offense. That might even violate them and put them back in jail. Simple things like that. That's what we're looking to try to do. Our traffic unit, traffic unit goes out and they write tickets all day. Well, not our traffic unit. Our traffic unit is now setting up. Basically, they're setting up operations in these same areas where we're having problems, and they're doing traffic enforcement there. If you find that in your neighborhood, you're maybe you don't live in the best neighborhood, and you're seeing motorcycle officers out there, you're seeing our DUI officers out there, that's what they're doing. And unfortunately, some of us law-abiding citizens might get caught up in running a stop sign or something like that. But ultimately, what we're looking for is we're looking for the criminals. We're trying to get into the cars. We're asking if we can search cars. We're looking for illegal guns, illegal weapons, and things like that.
That's what we didn't know. My neighbor, she's working, she can't come. One Sunday, they know we go to church. They wiped her eye, all that kind of stuff. Next 2 weeks, they did the same thing. Well, okay, she put bars on the back and on the side. Not Sunday gone, but Sunday after that, they came back again and wiped her out again. So the police came. Well, there wasn't the police. We was unaware of that. They don't send the police out there. They send them
Well, now they go out, you're talking about our public safety aides. They go out and they take their reports, but all that comes back here. We are well aware of all the residential burglaries that happen, the vehicle burglaries. The reports that they take, they come back and a uniformed sergeant actually approves that report, looks it over and everything, and then it goes to our crime analyst that passes all the information on to us and everything. So even when you get a PSA and not a regular police officer with a gun, you're getting the same service. In fact, they do a better job than what we do because they know how to process prints a little bit better than we do and things.
I'm not in Dallas, but I told her, go park her car and have somebody come, walk back. I'm serious about this. Sit there, and I want to ask the question, if she shoot him and she can't get him in, can she just lay out there on him until y'all come? I heard you got to pull him in your window.
Let me answer that one. I can do that one. We're going to start with, we'd prefer she doesn't shoot him. We've had this question before, and we all laugh about things like this, but the bottom line is we've had somebody that says that we've had a lady that's been broken into 3 times.
Yeah.
And it is something that we need to know exactly. We should be seeing these repeat locations, these repeat people that are being targeted. Usually if somebody gets hit 3 times, it's somebody who knows there's something in the house that we can do some work on that. So I'm going to answer the first question. We're going to prefer that she doesn't shoot him. We're going to prefer we put
She's
the
mad now.
I imagine she is. I'd be mad after the first one, much less the third one. But would prefer she don't shoot him. You have the right to protect your life and your property. But we prefer she not shoot him and lay on him until we get there. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Chief.
She shoot him and she pull him in and say, right?
Well,
Wait a minute.
you have the right.
All right. Well, we'll get back on track. All right, so our traffic unit, instead of just being out there writing tickets, up and down South Florida Avenue or stuff, they're actually targeting their efforts in some of these areas where we've seen the violent crime. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, what evidence would the driver have to show before you stop him? The law-abiding citizens that live in these areas that are not conducive to it.
Well,
what evidence would I have to show so you won't be stopping me?
all you have to do is not violate a traffic infraction, and they can't stop you. That's the bottom line. For us to conduct traffic stops, to stop citizens, you have to commit some type of violation. Whether it's something as small as rolling through a stop sign, or maybe at night you don't realize that your tag light's out. A simple tag light out is considered an offense, and we can stop you for that. So that's basically if you don't violate any crimes or any traffic infractions, then you won't get stopped. And just because you get stopped doesn't mean necessarily going to get a ticket or anything like that. But that's basically what you have to do. Ma'am?
What can we do to assist you in helping our kids? We have got to do something to save the youth of our nation.
Absolutely. And
these are the people that's going to stand where we're standing now.
Hopefully one day.
These are the people that's going to be chief lawmakers years to come. These are the people that's going to take over our city government. So what can we do as a community to work cooperatively with you all to help save our children? And another thing too, I don't hear anything said about the parents. Are the parents ever charged? If you find a teenager with a gun, is the parent charged for letting that child carry a gun or in possession of a gun?
One of the best things and one of the worst things that ever happened is the ability for us to try a juvenile as an adult. It's one of the best things because when you have a 15 or 16-year-old that has no concept of right or wrong and needs to be in prison probably, what that does, that takes the liability off the parent, because, and we all know we have a lot of parents that aren't being parents. Some parents are in prison themselves. Some parents, how many grandparents are raising their kids right now? Times are tough with everybody. It's very tough on everyone. So that is a problem, and I was going to get to that, but one of the things that we're doing, we have a lot of programs that we have right now for our youth. We have our Police Athletic League is huge right now. We have a lot of things that they do. We have under them, we have our youth leadership group through PAL, and these are taking kids that can make that decision between right or wrong and have decided to go right. And we have them, they help out with all kinds of police department events, all kinds of city events. They're good kids, and all that does is just bring more kids into the fold, more good kids, and bring them in. Our SROs, which I was going to talk about, our school resource officers, I was going to talk about them in a little bit. They are doing an incredible job right now at these schools. They're getting all kinds of information in from these kids. They're trying to keep the lines of communications open between the high school students and the police officers. They're getting in information that's helping us qualify gang members, letting us know, hey, this person's hanging with this person. I think they're a baby soldier. They're this, they're that, and it's a huge problem right now. But our SROs are working very hard to keep those communications open. Our SROs are probably one of our biggest positive attributes we have here with the police department as far as being able to reach the kids. That and our PAL program, really good right now. All right.
Can we follow up on that as well? Okay, we're doing the routine again. The question exactly was, what can we do? What does the community do? Lieutenant Taylor just described the programs that the police department has, and that's what we're giving information of what we're doing. We have 800 to 900 kids in our PAL program. When he said it's huge, it's huge. We've got Explorers, we've got the PAL program. Those are the things that we're doing. What we would like to see you as a community doing, so one of the best resources we've got are our churches. Our churches, our kids still respect what's happening in the churches for the most part. I always qualify that. And programs that you can do, things that you can do to reach out to the kids. We can only put so many kids in our programs. What we would like to do is partner with the various groups, the Boys and Girls Club, the Girls Inc., all the ones that have programs. Our churches, your churches have activity centers. You can do after school basketball. You could do different things. Rally the community to provide a place for these kids to go. We will partner with that if you feel like you are bringing in kids that are some of the ones that are most in need, but also some of the ones that can be the most problematic. Some of the most problematic kids are the ones that are the most in need. We've got Florida Southern students here. I've got Florida Southern. Do I have anyone else? Do I have Southeastern as well, or just Florida Southern tonight? Okay. We have a resource that is untapped on our Southeastern and our Florida Southern that volunteer hours, I know, are huge as you come out of college into things you're doing. Mentoring programs that I hate to put it, young, energetic people that can work with the youth. It just takes somebody that organizes it. And we get a lot of that to how can y'all help us? How can we help you? We have resources and staff that can help organize events. We have people that work 24 hours a day, an officer to come by an event that may be occurring to make sure it's safe and secure. We can do that. How can we help you do some of the very things? We appreciate the questions of what can you do to help us? What you can do to help us is start providing some of these resources and these events and these things for these kids to do. After school tutoring, after school basketball, after school anything like that, weekend something that doesn't turn into a team dance where we're afraid we've got carloads of guns and different things like that. Adults that take the time and the energy to organize the event. It is as simple as that. Kids really do respond to people who just simply care about what they're doing. And Miss Annie, I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of parents who don't be parents. Everybody's heard my speech before about part of the thing that we have. We will do everything we can to help parents who are in need of resources as well. But the first thing that I ask is that you be parents. Know where your kids are. Don't drop them off at Lakeside Village to babysit. Don't drop them off at Coleman Bush just to babysit because you have some. There needs to be an accountability to parents to know where their kids are, who they're hanging out with, and what they're doing. I agree with that. I don't have an answer for that one. I really don't.
Are y'all enforcing the curfew when a kid is out? Is it being enforced?
There is a countywide curfew that is available to us. It is not a city ordinance. It is a county ordinance. It is available to us for enforcement. It is a difficult thing because people don't like it when we do it.
Well, it's not what they like.
I understand.
Get it under control.
I understand.
Because if you put a curfew on and you start getting the parents involved, you arrest along with the kids, see how it comes down.
Curfew.
You got to enforce. We have to enforce some things. Because these kids do not respect their parents and they don't respect authority.
Weird.
If you tell them they have to be off the street a certain time in the house, and the parents gonna be held accountable, you will get more involvement with the parents.
The curfew holds the kid accountable. The curfew does not hold the parent accountable.
I
And it's
gave you the county, this Friday will ticket my niece for her son out. They charged her $125
well,
for not being in the house.
Good for them. And
Now,
that is,
she got fined, so it can be done.
yes, sir.
I mean, I've been listening critically and cautiously to what everyone is saying. We have to be particularly careful about how we view things. We talk about all these programs which are fine, but if you're not looking at it from a holistic standpoint, young people need more than sports. They need a job. Parents need a job. And when people are on the outskirts of hopelessness, you got a problem. You can talk about locking the kids up, you can talk about locking the parents up, but until we have a community in which everyone has a chance to earn a living wage, not just a minimum, a living wage, where they don't have to resort to doing all of these criminal things in order to say that I have something to show for my existence. Because everybody look at what's on the TV, how we parade our successes, and everybody wants to join in that. And when they can't do it, they resort to every other means in order to get it. So when we as a community start programs where we are employing our youth, showing them and demonstrating to them that we sincerely care, other than giving them a basketball or some stuff to bounce up and down, then and only then are you going to be giving them something to look forward to. You may encourage their parents to not be running with the child.
I absolutely 100% agree with what you just said. I absolutely 100% believe that this community needs to do those very things. Some of the things that we are doing, it includes job training and job skills. Unfortunately, the Lakeland Police Department does not have the jobs to give. We've got the training to give, but we don't have the jobs to give. We have this, I mean, the circle is this big. We've got this much of that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. First, we do need activities for these kids to do. Second, we need jobs for these kids and these parents to have. I don't have the authority to make these jobs, but I certainly have, and all of us have the ability, one, to talk about it like we are right now, and two, to see what the solutions are. Now, we are happy to be a catalyst for any of these things. We're happy to partner and do everything that we can. We don't have the jobs, but we have the ability to provide job skills and job training. That's part of our leadership programs that we do. So our programs are more than just sports. It teaches our kids teamwork. It teaches them skills. It teaches them how to follow the rules. So a lot of the things that we do are designed for that very thing. I just don't have the capacity to create the jobs that they need. That's where it comes in out there. So we'll go back to some of the things. I understand, but that, unfortunately, we don't have a solution for that tonight, but you are absolutely correct.
Okay.
Interrupted you, we're sorry.
All right, so I'll just kind of continue on. We have every section of police department is trying to do things. It looks like Sergeant Strong stepped out. The two of the teams that work directly under me, we work hand in hand with our narcotics officers, with Big Sergeant Strong back there. We're doing a lot of operations in the city around areas that maybe you've seen us, maybe you don't. Hopefully you don't see us, but that's the idea. I know that the things that we're doing, we can get results today, and we're also looking at some of our operations that we get results a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, a year from now. Those are more of our long-term operations and things like that. So we do have a lot of that happening. I've already talked about our school resource officers and what they're doing out there. Some of the things that, do we have any high school students in here at all? Oh, okay. Some of the things that we are doing in the schools is, the school resource officers, they are watching out for these gang members. They're watching to see if they're bringing weapons on the school. They're doing some spot checks on some searches and things like that they're allowed to do within the guidelines of the school rules and things like that. So we're doing our best to keep the schools safe. That's one of our top priorities. Again, it's that open line of communications between the students, the faculty at the schools, and then our school resource officers. We had an incident last month at Lakeland High School that we actually got information from students about a big fight that was supposed to happen. We were able to put an end to that before it happened, so that was a great success by our school resource officers. Okay, so we have that. What we're looking at for the future, we're coming up on spring break next week, right? Our school resource officers are out during spring break. They're out doing operations, looking for where the kids are hanging out. We have the summer coming up in the future. We have the 2 units that I'm in charge of. We actually have events that are planned all the way through the summer, trying to try to predict where these things may occur, and try to get officers on the ground there, hopefully to stop these and put some of these people in jail who need to be in jail, and try to reach some of the ones that we can still get to. When I looked at this, I looked and said, kind of like what this gentleman was talking about, that we're police officers. Our first thought is we need to put people in jail. That's why I put the hand up and swore and said that I would put as many criminals as I can in jail. As you move through and you realize that that's not always the answer, you realize that there's things we have to do, to prevent crimes from happening, to prevent a young juvenile from turning into that life of crime. So like I said, we have our PAL groups, we have our Explorers. Our Explorers program is a great program to get involved in. Our community service unit, they do a lot of things. They go to a lot of community meetings. When you ask how can you get involved, it's come to your community meetings, come to meetings like this. But typically what we see at these meetings is we see a group of people like this. We see the people that are concerned, the people who've taken care of their own families. Maybe you don't have the problems at home the people that are out there that aren't here are the ones that actually need to be here, because most of y'all know how to take care of your own and deal with your kids and all that kind of stuff. So encourage your neighbors, talk to your neighbors. Hey, come to the neighborhood meeting. You can actually, for all of y'all that do attend, I see a lot of familiar faces here that do attend your regular meetings. I mean, how many times do we tell you pick up the phone and call the police? Your neighbor who's got hit 3 times, I'm sure she calls every time. Have her come to the next meeting. That way she can meet the officer that works her neighborhood. Things like that, so that officer is aware of it and can continue to keep an eye on it. Yeah, that's good. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Question?
Yeah, just to get back to something you said before about a big fight was supposed to take place at the high school. I heard on television supposedly a day before it was supposed to happen. How does the media find out?
The media finds out about it through the school board, because the school board doesn't want something like that. What they did was on this occasion, the school board put out a phone call to all the students there, or all the students' homes, to all the parents basically, saying, hey, we had information that there might be a big fight. It's your option to let your child come to school or not that day. That's how the media found out about that. So that wasn't really our intention for that to happen, but that was the school board's decision. So, and that happens, which is actually good, because now everybody knew that, hey, this was supposed to happen. The police know about it. The school knows about it. Let's not go out there and start a big fight. It worked out perfectly. So, let's see a hand come up over here. No? Okay.
I work with Fred West.
Very good. So, well, good. So they're doing a good job for you then. Good. Excellent. That's what we want to hear. Any other questions or anything? No?
Can you hover just a little bit?
Okay.
Because we're not going to change out the mic. You can do that. Okay, so this is the information we wanted to get out. I want to talk very specifically about a challenge from the police department to the community. We talk about what we can do, and I'm going to offer a challenge that for the next month, let's continue this conversation, but let's talk about, I'm going to challenge our Florida Southern folks to bring us something back, something that as a class or as a university or something that y'all can do. Start a group of big brothers, big sisters. Do something, whatever. So I'm throwing down a challenge. What can we do? Is there something that can be brought back to us that will start the conversation about what we can do as partners to do this. One thing that I want to be very clear about, when we're talking about the things that we're doing that y'all last month heard me talk about our suppression initiatives, that's what we're talking about. Putting bad guys in jail is what we are charged with. It is our job, folks. That is unfortunately 90% of what we do and where our authority lies and what we have the ability to do. That's what we've been asked to do from our community. I want everyone, and Ms. Annie, I'll get right to you. What I want everybody to understand is we approach this through problems. We don't target a neighborhood, we target a problem. We do hotspot enforcement year round. We're going to tell you where the problems are. Last month we had the violent crime maps up, and it showed where we were having the most amount of gun violence as well as suspects arrested, and those areas hovered over specific geographic areas. But we do hotspot enforcement all the time. We do problem enforcement all the time, problem solving all the time. Christmas time, we are around Lakeside Village and the mall. That's called hotspot enforcement. That's where we're expecting to have those issues. Certain times of the year we do DUI and different types of traffic because we have an anticipated increase in alcohol-related crime. That's hotspot enforcement. That's problem solving is what we're trying to do, which is why our biggest tool for the community is information. That's why we talk about it this way. It's not intended as a lecture. It's not intended to scare anyone. I have found over the years that most people want to know what's going on. They don't. They also want us to fix it. I understand that. But we know what we are doing. We're doing everything that we can with the resources that we have. Miss Annie, you had a question.
If I remember correctly, our population right now is something like 95,000.
97 and some change, so right just under 100,000.
Last meeting, I think you said you had 213 officers.
We have 226 sworn positions. We have now officially 9 openings. So we have.
Okay, so nobody's giving you funds to hire the additional officers that you
I have funds to hire 226. We are at maximum training capacity right now. We have 8 that are in field training. We have 4 that just started in mini academy. So we have 12 officers in training.
How many African Americans in that group? Just one?
Of in the current mini academy. In the 8. And we just, but we just graduated a group that our diversity numbers. What are our total diversity numbers? Do you have that off the top of your head? Our
African Americans make up about 14% of our sworn force. Hispanic Latinos make up about 9 to 10% of the sworn force. Females make up about 15%, and males make up the rest.
So 14% African American of our sworn force. 10%, 10 to 12% of Hispanic. We are underrepresented, badly underrepresented in our Hispanic, and we are greatly in need of bilingual as well. Regardless of what you bring to us, we need some bilingual. We need a lot of improvement in our bilingual areas. 15% female. Now, what we try to do, let me speak to that. We have a very, very specific recruitment plan. It has been developed and revamped over the last year. What we are trying to do is improve our diversity across the board. A good police force is one of those that mirrors the community in which it serves. Now, we are close in some of our areas. 15%, half of our population are female. We're at 15%. Now, I'm the one of the few that can say it's not realistic to believe that half of our police force will be female. It's not that we don't recruit for females. That's one of the hardest areas to recruit for because of not a lot of women want to be police officers. So we're trying to improve that. But what we are trying to do very, very specifically is recruit for diversity. We've done a couple of things. One, we've targeted where we're recruiting at. 2, we are also recruiting for a higher educational level. So we're targeting areas that we can improve our diversity as well as improve the education level of our police officers. So we've had this. I understand. I mean, I absolutely agree with the need to diversify, and we're doing that as quickly and as well as we can. what we are trying to do. Antoine's giving me one of these.
I have a question. And when you ask that question, what's the basis of your question? Why did you ask that question?
I would like to know, if, anyway, if you have a felony, one felony on your record, you cannot become a police
You
officer?
cannot. Felony convictions,
It cannot be expounded from your record?
no ma'am.
So I stole a candy bar 15 years ago.
That's not a felony. That's not a felony.
If you stole a car, no, you cannot be a police officer.
Felony convictions preclude you from being a police officer. There are certain mistakes in your youth that will keep you from being a police officer for the rest of your life, no matter what. A felony conviction is about the big one. Misdemeanors, things that you made mistakes in your youth. We do have those that have made mistakes in their past and have moved beyond that and have proven that this is a mistake in their past and they've learned from it.
What's the basic requirements? Do they need a college degree or?
Basic requirements, age of 21, 60 hours of college if you don't have any other types of experience. You can come to us as an already sworn police officer with your standards already intact. We take military as experience, 60 hours of college if you have no other experience. We are hiring those that are already sworn or already have their standards in place right now, but we do have the capacity to sponsor somebody who has not been through the police academy. We have a recruit level pay that we will put you through the academy as an employee of ours. That way we make sure we know exactly, but the sheriff's office won't be able to steal them. That's the code word for that. So there's a lot of different things. So there's a lot of moving parts when we're talking about the requirements. Now, what you can't have is a felony conviction, misdemeanor conviction within a certain time frame. What's the time frame? Can anybody tell me?
There's really not one, it depends on them.
Okay, so it depends on the misdemeanor and various other things. Now, if you come in and you admitted that you smoked a little dope 5 days ago, you're probably not going to be hired. Different things like that, you'd be surprised at what people admit to and still want to be. I've stopped now, but we do. There's a lot of moving parts, Miss Annie, on that one. But the felony conviction is one that'll.
Why don't you tell me that?
With the administration break it down for me, race, ethnic, and gender.
The administration, the command staff. The command staff would be considered chief, assistant chiefs, and captains. From the chief, I'm a female.
Okay.
And I will tell you that I hold the statistically smallest category of police chiefs. Less than 1.5%. It used to be less than 1%, so we've made a few gains, but less than 1%. Right at 1% of the nation's police chiefs are female. 1%.
No, I'm talking about here in the city of Lakeland.
That's 100% here in the city of Lakeland.
No, my question is that if I want to join the force, and I don't see myself moving up in rank, and I'm here, but I've known people staying up for 30 years and still haven't moved up in rank. Well, this is what I'm getting at. I want to know when you say, when you go out and recruit, if I stay with you, and when I look across the board, how are we moving up?
Moving up quite nicely. What we have, there are a couple of things when we're talking about promotions. One, you have to want to promote, and two, you have to put the time and the energy into doing so. So, in terms of command staff, chief is female. 3 assistant chiefs, 1 African American male, 2 white males. Captains, we have 4 white males.
Okay, you answered my question. Now you're getting to what I want. What's the starting salary? What's the starting salary? Because now, this is what I'm getting at. Because when I look at the budget,
before anyone assumes that there is not the opportunity to promote, to be a sergeant, you will have to have been a police officer for 4 years. From sergeant to lieutenant, is it 3 years? You have to be a sergeant for 3 years. 2?
I think it's 2.
That's what I'm saying, 2 or 3?
I think it's 2.
Okay, 2 to 3. It's different in every department. So 2 to 3 years. So before you can even reach the rank of lieutenant, you have to have been here a minimum of 6 to 7 years. 6 to 7 years before you're eligible by our rules. Now that is absolutely not because we're trying to make it hard on someone. You have to learn to do the job before you can move up. So 6 to 7 years before you'd even be eligible to reach the rank of lieutenant. The rank of lieutenant, from there, you can be a lieutenant off probation and be eligible for the 4 captain spots. 4. There's only 4 of them, and you have to meet certain criteria, and you are competing against all of the lieutenants. You're competing against all the people, so it becomes limited. It's an upward movement. The only position that was hired from the outside that was not right now within the last year available, that was hired from the outside, was me. So all of these other positions are available. We just recently did a promotion. Now we had, there was competition. I don't know the demographic breakdown of our sergeants. Lieutenants, I have 1 African American male, 1 female. So 2 lieutenants.
What's the starting salary for a police officer?
41. Recruit pay is 38 if we're going to put you through the academy. 41 without any experience. We will pay a higher salary if you come to us experienced as a police officer. So if you have 7 to 10 years of experience, you can start in the range of 44 to 45,000 as a police officer.
Okay. You answered my question. Beautifully. The reason why I asked this question, because there have been budget cuts across the board and some more are coming. And I know that you're going to be in need. And there are some things that are not going to get done.
We have not, the last 2 years of budget, we have been flat. We have not been cut. We have not been asked to cut anymore. Now, several years back, there were cuts. The last 2 years, we are flat. We have been able to maintain what we have, and we have had several conversations with the commissioners about the number of police officers. The reason I'm very clear about this is that people ask me, do you need more police officers? Right now, I need 9 more. I have money for 226, and I only have 217 on the payroll. Right now, I need 9 more police officers. When we get to 226, then we'll talk about what we're going to be able to do and how we're able to deploy them. So if the commission were to give me right now an additional 20 officers on top of the 226, I couldn't hire them and train them. We are at maximum training capacity. We have 8 in field training. That means they're paired up with a field training officer. 8 officers are training 8 new rookies. That is as much as we can possibly do at one time. We're dumping another 4 on top of that in about 6 weeks. So we're going to be transitioning. We have to be able to train well. If you hire too fast and you don't train well, then you have officers that don't know what they're doing. Now, quite frankly, this is a conversation we continue to have about we need more cops, we need more cops. We need 9 more. I am hoping that we get back to 226 within the next 9 to 12 months. So we're still 9 to 12 months out to being full strength right now. We can't do it any faster than we are. Then the next thing is, Chief, you need to make sure that you don't let us get in a hole again. We are going to have things that are in place to where we don't see ourselves declining in our staffing. At one point, we had 18 openings. All you guys about to graduate, we've got 9 openings. Come on. We got applications. We're ready to take
Veterans are beginning to come home. Are you going to give them priority? Your veterans?
Yes, ma'am. We do.
Okay.
We give
This
military
is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have a good recruitment in our military. What we want is we've got a lot of people that come out of the military as military police with some policing experience. We want to make sure that our veterans are well taken care of. So we absolutely do. So we're looking for a variety of things. Now I will say this: I will carry those 9 openings before I will hire bad cops. I would rather have an opening than a bad hire. So we are hiring the best and the brightest with everything that we possibly can get out of them. Yes, ma'am.
Am I too old? I've never been to jail.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We do not have a. See, you notice I didn't even ask her how old she is. I just said no. You're not too old. There's a minimum age of 21. One of our hires of the 4 that are in the mini academy happens to be 57 years old. We just hired. He is an experienced police officer that didn't find retirement to be quite to his liking, and 57 years old. So yes, ma'am, we will hire the best we can.
Yes, sir.
It's very hard to hear that you're putting a premium on diversity there. Historically, there has been a misperception in the community that the Lakeland PD does not hire blacks. The blacks have not been very mobile within the Lakeland PD. And so I'm glad to hear you enumerate some of the things that you're doing proactively to try to recruit blacks and Hispanics and other minorities, because that has been the perception in this department that those that are currently employed have not been eligible for movement or mobility within the Lakeland PD. So I just want to laud you for your efforts in trying to
Every employee,
dispel that.
we have two types of recruiting we have to do, and I won't belabor this one, but one is to get them in the door as a police officer. We have to recruit for diversity on our police officer ranks. Then we have to internally recruit for those to promote. Promotion from officer to sergeant can be disruptive to your family. You suddenly change your schedule. You suddenly get sent to night shift where you've had the last 5 years on day shift. We've got the promotional issues and why people don't choose to do it upward. So being able to, because we don't hire that from the outside. We have a pool of officers to choose from. I can't force somebody to do that. And the biggest thing that we see, although there is a perception that it is, that we don't, and this is my 4th department, so I can tell you that this is not a unique thing to Lakeland. But what we have is some of the things that preclude us from moving people up the ranks is simply a personal choice or a family issue, or for whatever reason, don't choose to do so. So we have to promote internally. We have to do succession planning. We have to make sure that our officers are willing and wanting that upward mobility. Because sometimes our pool of sergeant applicants don't mirror what we want. But we can't force somebody to be a sergeant. Our pool of lieutenant applicants may not mirror what we want. So if you see a promotion that does not include diversity, there may not have been a diversification available. And
How
that's
big is the gap in salary? If you're saying you want to move from sergeant to lieutenant, how big is that gap in salary?
15. We have about a 15% gap between each one of our ranks. And, unfortunately, it's not about money. Sometimes our officers can make more money than our sergeants because of extra duty details and overtime. It's very complicated when you're talking about internal diversification. But we will do everything that we can to encourage the choice to do so. Then we're going to make sure that people are well trained and they have the skills and the mentoring that they need to do that. Any other questions for Lieutenant Taylor?
I have one for you. And that is, are you comfortable with that 14% of African Americans?
I am never comfortable with anything. I would like to have the best qualified, there's no quota system for me. I'm not comfortable with any number. I want the best qualified police officers I can get, and I want the best diversification I can get. And we use our diversification in our community, our demographics in our community as a guideline. So, because quite frankly, when you're talking about the community, we don't recruit just from Lakeland. We don't have the applicant pool that is local. So these are all guidelines. Am I comfortable with it? It is what it is right now. But what I'm looking for is a police force that knows, understands, and mirrors our community and is the best qualified, best dedicated police officer we can get. So I don't know that comfort is, oh, we hit our mark, now we can stop. No, we are recruiting for the best qualified applicants we can find. We are using our community as our guideline of what our faces and our force should look like. So
what is the percentage of African Americans in the community? With this, I think it's filed with.
We're right at 14, 15%. Yeah, 18, 14, 15%, I think is the last I saw. So we're 18. Okay.
What is the retention of the officers? How long are they staying on the job?
Clearly, it's not good, or we wouldn't have so many openings. We have had a fairly significant retirement. We've had a lot of retirements very sudden. Well, not very suddenly. We've had a lot of people reach retirement age. We have a drop program, so a lot of ours have been retirements. We've had others that have left for other opportunities. We've lost some in a training. This goes back to recruiting for the best qualified. We've got some, when you recruit someone who's never been a police officer, sometimes they get here and they decide that it's really not for them after all. So we've lost some in the training process, and we've had a couple of well-deserved terminations. So.
Question on gangs. How many do we have in the area approximately, and approximately how many members are there?
Ooh, I am not the gang expert. I know it's probably upwards of 7 or 8 that are fairly active gangs, and I think the last time we have a gang liaison officer, I want to say close to 150. Okay, the assistant chief is saying 150, so that's what we're looking at.
150 to 200 identified gang members that are what we would be considered actively engaged in criminal activity. There may be a larger number that may identify themselves as gang members, but when we talk about those that we have actively identified as a gang member, that would be those that we believe have actively engaged in criminal street activity.
Most of these people, you probably know where they live, I suppose.
Yes, we do. Yes, and that's part of our activities that we do on our operations are directly targeting them. So.
And I just saw Mr. Ruiz. Did he step to the? Okay, we will. I would like to give a few minutes to talk about some of what we would call our quality of life related stuff. We are a true believer that if we work on some of the small issues in the neighborhoods as well, as we work on, I'm not going to bore everybody with the broken windows theory, but if you work on some of the small issues, the unkept houses, the high weeds, the abandoned vehicles, that type of thing, you can start improving the pride and the quality of life in the neighborhoods. And that's where we partner with our code enforcement folks. And we did ask them to be here. So as soon as he's back out, we'll do that. Are there any other questions on tonight's topic? Is everybody okay with the Chief's challenge? Next month, we want to continue this conversation about what we can do and how we can do it. Now, you don't have to wait till next month. If you have a project, oh, there he is. I chose just this moment to look for you. I picked the right spot. I would like for Mr. Ruiz to take a few minutes to talk about what his department and division does. And he really does cover those areas that are quality of life related things. And and there's a lot of overlap with what we do. They're a great partner of ours. And so.
Antoine's only got 3 minutes of tape left, so.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you stand right next to the mic now.
Do I need to stand up here?
Yes, you have to stand next to me too.
To Lieutenant Taylor. Good evening, everyone. I know most of you did not come here tonight to hear about local government code enforcement, so I will keep this very brief. Chief Womack asked me on Saturday if I would come. Apparently there have been a couple of questions related to neighborhood quality of life issues. Our code enforcement office enforces all of the civil local government codes and ordinances that the city of Lakeland has, or generally all of them. There are a few other divisions that manage some specific issues. Most of you probably know what code enforcement is. For those of you that don't, we are in the business of enforcing regulations for overgrowth, open storage, junk, trash, and debris, derelict vehicles, commercial vehicles in residential districts, all of our zoning regs, housing, all of our housing code provisions. Those are the big ones. I will tell you, and I've said this at a lot of neighborhood meetings, the big difference between what these guys do and what we do, aside from the fact that they will actually put people in jail, and we will not do that, cannot do that, is what I like to refer to as a presumption of ignorance. And in the case of law enforcement, you know about the presumption of innocence, right? Everybody, in America knows that they are presumed innocent in a criminal proceeding until they are found guilty, right, by a jury of their peers. Anybody who's watched an episode of Law and Order knows that. Okay, in 1980, the Florida legislature passed Chapter 162, the Local Government Code Enforcement Boards Act. And in that new statute, they included a requirement that in the case of enforcement actions for violations of local government codes and ordinances, that's what we're talking about, that we have to give somebody who is alleged to be violating a code or ordinance a notice that they are violating that code or ordinance and a reasonable time within which to correct the violation. Okay? When I say that, the reason that reasonable time requirement is in the statute is that presumption of ignorance. You are presumed in the criminal law to know better, right? To know better than to hold up the liquor store, steal a gun out of somebody's car, or whatever. In the case of local government code enforcement, most of you probably don't know all the rules and regulations the city has, right? You are presumed ignorant. I don't say that to say that you're not smart, just that you do not know that these codes and ordinances exist. And that's why we're required to give people notice and a reasonable time to fix whatever the problem is. Once that reasonable time has passed, then we move on to less pleasant aspects of the code enforcement business, and that includes convening hearings, possibly imposing fines, in the extreme, demolishing unsafe structures. We do impound automobiles on occasion. We have a fairly aggressive lots cleaning and clearing program for vacant and unoccupied properties. We have a contractor who mows and cleans properties to the tune of about $75,000 a year. What else? I'm mostly here because the chief said there are questions, so I'd be interested to hear if there are any questions tonight.